antique serpent leads towards the 19 angels over hell. The sun pour... Okay, I'm going to start that over. The antique serpent leads towards the 19 angels over hell. The sun points towards what is well in the three worlds. Death points towards the change that leads us to ask, what's the smell? Weaving brings together or brings out that identity in our task. The good and evil are whatsoever we sing and act out. There's often a reason to shout. And what is this next one? Iranians, Zoroastrians, 21 degrees, 4 minutes. 1F, 11F. Okay, that's coordinates. So I'm probably done with the Nargargole Shlod videos for this round. I don't know if I'm going to get to anything later. What does this say? Okay. Whether the last Sabbath, sunset tonight starting Ostara, or the day tomorrow, most cultures had their New Year's around the vernal equinox. It is like the sunrise of the solar year. The Vedas may have older roots, but Mazda Yasnaha Zarathustra has a higher degree of continuance, even though I can't tell whether Zarathustra started in Afghanistan or Azerbaijan. But it seems that his mission reached those ends in his life 2,600 to 8,000 years ago. You know, one of them, obviously. The everlasting flame, Zoroastrian history and civilization. Zarathustra, as all true prophets of God, did not teach pride or lineage-based of hereditary lines. It is religion itself that should not be diluted rather than just tradition. Some in the Islamic community also do 3 ritual prayers instead of the 5, or do not pray their night prayers on time out of laziness or ignorance of sleep being the best in shifts. Sometimes one doesn't have a choice. If a person's unconscious, you get up and say things, but if you're conscious. Zarathustra did not claim to be founding a religion, but restoring it to humanity. Since 1983, the Majus, or Kanon Zarathustra, have been established as a protected people with the rights to even do some things not lawful to Muslimin, permitted faith followers, or atheists in the quasi-Islamic Republic of Iran. So the preface, disclaimer. I might as well go over my disclaimer again. Works of what the Orthodox religions consider as forbidden magic may be filled with mention of what violates the laws of the land and the supposed laws of God. Are these laws of mankind provincial and arbitrary? There are sometimes risk to physical or psychological safety. Are there ways to experience magic beyond the supernatural while being as physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually safe? There is a truth behind the text of alternative spirituality, and our collective experience and thoughts on them may just be the beginning. Okay. And I'll share something. I'll share the final paragraph of the outline of the method here. I do not believe that a person needs to be by oneself in secret to abstain from anything fast, long prayers for 3 days, and reviewing or memorizing many magical formulas are needed to make such evocation work, but they can help. There are certain days of the week, like Monday for the lunar and Thursday for the priestly, and year that may serve well to practice regular fasting. Those considering 3 day fast may either prefer the full moon, 13th through 15th, or new moon, 27th through 29th, or 29th through 30th. A mental fast of spirituality being connected to your workings on Friday. All weekend, or whatever day or night, you turn to grimoires as a source for your dark spiritual activities. Indulgence in some cases works better. Sometimes forgetting allows other information to fill the gaps. If you have ever made yourself to spend whole segments of the day, week, or month in spiritual practices, you may know what I mean, of how it helps people to develop psychologically and to break through spiritually. What sense does it make to invoke angels and then go evoke demons? Okay. The last line about demonology of Grimorium Verum. The last paragraph I have here. I plan to analyze the names in this grimoire linguistically at a later time, but some of that understanding of the names we found in my Like the Goetia work and, my Like the Grimorium Verum work, which I have started on, I also plan to interpret and experience the material beyond the surface, scholastic and other philosophy I'm doing here, as I did with other systems. Verses can be associated and external sources can be connected, but I just haven't done that yet. A word about the figures. I don't know if I've shared that yet, so I'll share that paragraph. It is very important to be honest about transmission of spiritual experiences and traditions. A person may find errors or make suggestions, but it would probably be a bad idea to add and subtract to write your own sort of gospel as the early Christians did. Joseph H. Peterson is probably right to consider the sigilia as if they are spiritual signatures or necessary symbols to make the magic work. I too would say to relate symbolic material as close to the original as possible without trying to curve or straighten it, except in rare cases. Make clear what the gaps in occult experience and tradition are in order to not confuse the primary sources. Do not think that I am calling you to ignore or neglect your own development and experience within and without what you are working with. And relation to the source text, I would agree that with Joseph H. Peterson that it seems that Grimorium Verum probably started with the Clavicula Solomonis, Solomonis Regis version version mixed with the version of the Grimoire of Honorius, and then went in that of Alibec or a text like it, and then came the versions of Blockwell, Bestete, and Muzzi. Modifications and filling in the gaps seems most likely to have been the case with the later two in particular. Italian versions seem to do that with the material from the Grimoire of Honorius. I see this sort of blending of text and making up detail to be the rule rather than the exception with underground religious texts, particularly when dealing with witchcraft. The printing of alternative spiritual text sometimes adds new errors, but I think it possible that some were fixed too. Is this a result of the paths being defective, or are the people involved being flawed? And so the benediction, my version of it, I failed to realize it earlier in my life, but Grimorium Verum was probably the top alternative religion's spell book in Europe at the time. This is probably true to those who spoke French, Italian, and Spanish. A.E. White, wait, was also of a similar opinion about the centrality of Grimorium Verum. Aleister Crowley and similar New Age figures of the 1800s and 1900s seems to have been why the Goetia and other pseudo-Solomonic magic takes center stage in the occult. I am in debt to the latter for my drawing attention towards the dark occult in general. I am in debt to the former and Joseph H. Peterson for illuminating the Grimorium Verum tradition beyond the confused or watered-down fragments in popular culture. For patience and involvement with this, and later study or working, my gratitude goes out to those humans and purely spiritual beings I'm involved with, as I experience and work out an understanding of this subject in notebooks worth of detail, as I did with the Goetia. Malediction, by what I call on in worship or ritual, with the symbols and forms that seem most fitting, I too strike out at and curse those enemies of mine who will never reform, yet strike down potential for good in me, in this world and the afterlife, or willfully factor in undue hardship upon me or loss. Translation of the true grimoire, let's see. I'll just share the last bit there. Other demonarchy seems to not fall into a noted order within Grimorium Verum, but more detail of the hierarchy of demons does now, and will emerge. And Grimorium Verum, like a vision with the 21st Enochian author, 10:58 a.m. to 12:17 p.m., 3/29, 2016, our 5th and 6th solar hour of the 21st of the 6th month of 1437. Okay, I'm going to see if there's... Okay, I am not seeing any Nargargole Shlod videos for the Ostara Day, so I am going to say times God has intervened in my life, how to pray. This is my response to a particular Christian woman. Worshipping God should not be as spells. The Bible manuscripts is the most direct and clear reason to reject the crucifixion and other Christian-specific claims. The larger manuscripts of the Gospels, versions of John started around 90 CE, and others took another half century to even appear as fragments, reveal the problems with Christianity. The Christian idea of love and divine incarnation is about as diluted and corrupt as it gets. You would be much happier and healthier if you were more accountable. People use each other. Drug addiction, on the physical level, is a combination of drug use and nutritional issues rather than a mental disorder in itself. Oh. What is... Okay. The Grand Appellation. That sounds pretty... Invocation of Baruch. Luciferian, where do I start? Well, Oh, wait, that's Thelema and pranayama. Okay, there's a Nargargole Shlod video on this one, so if I get to more today, I'll be starting again on the 21st of 2017. Hail Saturn.